Hi, I'm Renée Walker, a mindset mentor, speaker, and lover of all things spiritual. I believe that at our core, we are all spiritually wired for love, peace, success, and abundance. Here on the podcast, we're diving into mindset, wellness, and business, but always through a spiritual lens. Let's just say we're going deep, but we're keeping it light. So let's elevate your life from the inside out, one conversation at a time. Welcome to Spiritually Wired. Welcome back to the Spiritually Wired podcast. My guest today is Vanessa Locicero, and she is the founder of Soul Attorney at Locicero Legal Professional Corporation, and she's also the creator of Legacy Law Alignment. Let me tell you that she is one of us, and I am so looking forward to this conversation. Welcome to the podcast, Vanessa.
Thank you so much for having me, Renée. I'm really excited to be here today.
Okay, so before we go any further, I do want to share with our listeners. So it's just such a great story of how we connected. So I run an event with my friend, with my colleague Bina Dinza every year called Manifest Her for Women, and it's all about manifesting health and wealth. So if you are a listener of the podcast, you've heard me talk about it. Anyhow, Binu and I were very intentional with the brand sponsors that we wanted to bring on. And, so that we were bringing on people where it was this mutually beneficial relationship, someone who was already like spiritually inclined and could, has a service that can support, help the people that were going to be in the room. Anyhow, we were thinking, it would be like amazing for someone who is a lawyer, someone in the legal profession. But then we couldn't really think of anyone. So we just put it out there to the universe, surrendered it. And then our mutual friend, Christina Bartold, connected us. I don't even think that it was very much longer after that conversation that we had. And we go online and we see that Vanessa's handle is at Soul Attorney. And we're like, seriously, universe, could this be more aligned? And then we booked a call with Vanessa. We just had this immediate connection. And it just felt like it was meant to be.
I love that. It's so true. And I am also very particular about the events that I sponsor. And so I wanted to be aligned with, a business event, a women's event that was spiritual and cared about the soul piece. And so it was really perfect because I like to bring soul to the law because usually people see lawyers as like soulless. And, people think about the devil's advocate and they think about, we help you get away with all the bad things and help bad people. But on the flip side, I like to say, I bring the soul to the law because if you bring soul intention and the desire to create a positive impact to your life and to the law, then the law can be really, really powerful and can really set people up to manifest their most, aligned lives. So I see it as a tool. I see it as a way to pump a little more heart and soul into these structures that keep us safe and keep us, aligned and positive.
I love it. And I love your energy and your passion for it. And I think that you are right. It's gotten such a bad rap.
Totally.
Yet at the same time, it's an important piece of living in society today. And so whenever we have these parts of our lives where we're talking about the legal side or the money side, we can either resist it, work against it, or we can actually find a way to embrace it and allow for it to work for you, which I know when we've had our conversations, that's what I feel from you, is just this passion that you have around, okay, it's a part of life, and how about we actually use it as a tool to amplify your life as
Totally.
opposed to something that's going to bring it down. All right.
100%.
So we are going to have I am just feeling it right now. We are in our flow. And I think that you can help so many people because, again, it is a part of life that we tend to avoid. My husband actually has been an investment advisor for 35 plus years, and he will say that the most important thing that he can do for his clients is make sure that they have a good estate plan in effect.
100%.
And so because what he saw was how many people avoid it. And I would love for us to go straight to business. And maybe
Hmm.
if you can share with people, actually, what is an estate plan? What does it
Totally.
even mean? What does it look like? And just give us a little bit of a starting point.
Beautiful. Happy to do that, Renee. So, uh, basically, an estate plan, the starting point, when we talk about that, the plan at minimum is three documents. It is your will, which is a document that only springs to activity from the date of death of an individual. So you sign it now, it sits in a safe place until that day, and then the will becomes active. So there's that document. That's the document that sets out who's going to give all your stuff away and who they're going to give it to, amongst a lot of other things, but at a basic, that's what the will does. The other two documents that are part of the plan are the powers of attorney. We have two powers of attorney in Ontario. The first one is the power of attorney over your personal care decisions. This is somebody who steps in when you no longer have the mental capacity to make your own decisions about your health care and your treatment and your consenting to medicine, treatment, surgeries, healthcare and living. So there's that one. And then the final one is the power of attorney over property. This one is always highly overlooked, but is really just as important as the will. This is the document that allows somebody else to step into your shoes to manage your personal assets when you become incapable of doing so. And the power of attorney is really important because whoever you pick can do anything with your assets that you can do other than make a new will. So these are really important documents that go into preparing for when we no longer have the capacity to manage decisions for ourselves, be it personal care or property, or what happens upon passing.
Okay, so why is it important for people to do this? Because I can say, and again, because of who I married, I went through this when I was in my 20s, and I remember it being like, really? I don't, it's the most, it's not like it's
Yeah.
a fun thing to think about,
Oh no.
yet once it's done, it's very empowering and okay,
Yes.
I'm set. So why is it important? What happens if you don't have an estate plan, if you don't have your
Yeah.
your POAs?
Totally. So if you don't have your POAs in place, basically there are a couple, and even your will in place. The law does have fallbacks. So there is legislation that says who gets appointed and what happens if. But a lot of those times, especially if there's a circumstance where people think, oh, it should be me, or no, it should be me, and you haven't picked a person, those two people will have to go to a court and will have to fight about who's going to get the job. So first of all, if you don't deal with things and plan, then other people are going to have to pay to figure out what you wanted. So that's like
Mm.
number one. Why else should you plan? Because there are definitely ways to protect a lot of different things that you've amassed, in your life. So if you have kids, you really want to, and they're under the age of 18, you have the opportunity to appoint guardians. documents in your will. Really important, again, for you to have say over who, the court should consider to be the guardian of your minor children. If you have a corporation, you're an entrepreneur, or you have private company shares, or you have assets that don't require a probate certificate. In Ontario, a good estate plan that's like, not just a level A, but maybe a level B, will include not only a primary will, but you can actually have two wills. So if you have the right kind of assets, you can put those assets into a secondary will and avoid probate tax in doing that. So there are tax benefits, there are administration benefits, there are litigation protection benefits that come into, having these documents in place and expressing your wishes and intentions clearly about it before something happens. It's about protecting your loved ones because, really they're the ones who are going to have to pick up the pieces of whatever it is that you've left behind. And so if you don't give a clear plan, or you make the plan complex because you're worried about hurting someone's feelings, like, people are just going to have to blow all the money in the estate to litigate, to get a judge to make a decision. So just, you can do it. You can keep it simple and straightforward. And it doesn't have to be really this complex and scary thing. But you want to have these essential documents in place so that it's done and you don't have to think about it, for a couple years until, you always want to go back every 5 years and think, do we need to make an update? Does anything need to change here? Any of the appointments of people? Because you want to make sure the people you're picking to be your executor, your power of attorney, and any substitutes for those people are still alive. They're still capable. They're still, friends, or you still have a good relationship with them. So yeah, different things to definitely consider.
Yeah, so you said one thing that I think is so important for people to understand that maybe is not always understood is that, so yes, it can be an uncomfortable process to go through. Luckily, there are people like you who care, who you can connect. So this is where finding the right person that you connect
Mhm.
with is so important.
Totally.
So yes, it's an uncomfortable process, yet it really is one of the greatest acts of love that we can do for the people that are in our life, because if we don't do it, then they're the ones that are left with the ramifications, right,
Yeah.
of not having those documents in place.
And I see the hard conversations. If we're talking about people who get spirituality and energy work and understand, what I mean when I say shadow work, I think this type of a conversation kind of gets close to doing that shadow work and, confronting the things that scare us the most, confronting the what ifs, thinking about, oh my gosh, that end situation. And we know that when you do that work, there's magic on the other side. There's clarity on the other side of doing the hard work and having the hard conversations. So I almost see the work of, pulling the threads out of my clients when we're, talking through these what ifs and, holding space for them to ponder and really drill down to what do I want. So I think it brings it all together when you can include that deep spiritual intention along with that legal structure and articulation of that intention to protect your loved ones.
Yeah, I think that it's a powerful reframe to be like, no, this is actually an act of love for the people in my life.
Totally.
Now, for people, let's say, who are listening, that maybe they have their estate plan, they have their wills in place, they've done it, but there are people in their lives, maybe it's parents or that have not done that. How do you approach? So I know you have ways, like how can someone approach a very delicate and difficult conversation when it comes to the estate planning?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time, those conversations can be colored around, I'm just waiting for you to die so I can collect. But you really want to remove that type of energy from the conversation, because that will immediately put, the latter generation on the defensive and not open up, a cohesive conversation. When really the conversation is not, I don't care about the numbers. It's not about that. It's about mom and dad. How can we make sure that your intentions are being carried out? And, legacy to me is a lot of different things. It's, the feeling that someone leaves you with. It's the structure they leave in place. It's what they leave behind physically. Like, there's all these different things that go into legacy. And so, how do you want to be remembered, and how can and sometimes, and I see this, more and more lately too, parents are trying to take their kids out of the equation altogether and say, you know what, we've appointed a trust company to, deal with our estate, so you guys don't have to fight about it, or, different tools that are being implemented. So if there's like a family scenario where there, is a heightened sense of awareness that there could be a conflict, or, oh no, brother and sister and siblings and nephews and uncles and nieces don't get along. And if you know that those kind of red flags are on the horizon, it's better to like have conversations ahead of time and try and, conciliate and bring everyone together in a room and clear the air and keep things very positive before it devolves to just being about the money. Because while someone is with us, we can keep it about their legacy and about the feeling and what they want to leave behind, because no one wants to be known for leaving behind a mess, right? Like, no one wants to be known for that. And so if that's a prompt, mom and dad, we want to remember you for all the good memories, the good times, not, the pile of XYZ you left in boxes in the basement that we had to sort through.
Yeah, and I think also like the conversation around it being about honoring their life, as you said, right?
Yeah,
So, and if you have specific wishes, you as a child or whatever the connection is with the person, just knowing what the person's wishes are makes it you feel good about that instead of second guessing, oh, is this what they would want? Is that what they
exactly.
would want? That kind
Yeah,
of invites ease to a clearly difficult situation to begin
yeah,
with because you're dealing with
yeah.
the passing. Yeah.
I see all of the conversation, like the fear around the conversation stems from the fear of death and that ultimate fear of that passing moment and the loss of the loved one. And so, the soul attorney in me says if we can come at it from, the philosophy of energy never dies, and, every next chapter is just the next phase, and the energy will always be with us, and bringing that to the conversation, it takes a bit of that heavy cloud off. And I think about energy continuing. So when I think about legacy, I think, yeah, that is something that lives on. And how can I participate in helping those I love maintain their legacy in the way that they want after they're gone.
That's so beautiful. I love that. Again, just such a powerful reframe around, yeah, what is a difficult conversation, yet it can open up for so much more freedom when you let yourself go there.
Hmm.
So, and
Yeah.
the spiritual piece, I mean, of course, it's the idea is that it's this celebration of life. And I love how even more people, as they transition, pass on, we're seeing more of those instead, right?
Yes.
The celebrations of life. And so this is a way to also honor your life and to be to have agency over what will happen, as opposed to keeping your head in the sand, which is something that many of us do in different areas of our lives. But yeah,
You hit
so
the
much
nail
more
on the
power.
head, Renee, there with agency. A lot of what I really am passionate about is empowering women with legal tools. And
Mhm.
the estate plan is just another legal tool that you can use in your life to have that. And so, like I was just thinking about other tools. Like, people often think about legal as the ring that you go into when there's a problem, rather than what is this legal tool I can implement to structure something to accomplish X result. And so that reframe to think about, oh, what can I do using a trust? What can I do using a secondary will? What can I do using a liability waiver to set up a boundary, to protect, to create generational wealth, to create, tax advantages? These are legal tools. So if we become more empowered with, what are these legal tools, then as women, we can take that agency and say, yeah, I want to implement a trust here and get someone to do that for you, and fully feel like, I'm owning that, instead of, living in the, oh, so and so, here my husband said sign here, so I just signed on the line and I don't know what I signed. So it's really about getting women comfortable and empowered with the different tools that are out there, so that they can implement them to create that level of alignment in their life.
Yeah, I mean, the cost, the energetic cost to not doing those things, that's the piece that we sometimes don't always realize, just how expensive it is to not do it, right? So we
Totally.
can maybe look the other way because you're avoiding that difficult conversation. I work with a lot of women, so I see often it's avoiding conversation. Sometimes it's with
Yeah.
your spouse, right? Or with your business partner, or with, other people in your life. So you can choose to avoid it, and listen, I'm the biggest believer in trusting the universe. and there are so many instances
Yeah.
where actually the most loving thing you can do for yourself is have the courage to have the conversation, to put those boundaries in place, as you said, whether they're contracts or agreements or whatever it may be. And then you free up some of the energy that goes into the wondering, because even when you're pretending that it's okay, even when you're pushing it aside and you're not doing it, it is taking up some of that
Leaking.
energy.
That
Yes.
energy is leaking, it's leaking, and it's leaking all in these little places, and we don't know where, in those thoughts that come in, because we haven't shored them up with a boundary.
Yeah.
And the way I like to think about legal boundaries and these legal tools, and for those who are, spiritual, and you kind of understand when I say, when you're going to do like a deep meditation, or you're going to do something where you want to protect your energy, you'll envision that ball of white light around you. You will, cast yourself in this boundary, and you protect your energy that way. And I like to think, and this is the reframe, that these legal tools that we implement, whether it is in our estate plan or in a contract where we're really ironing out the scope of work, the payment terms, the times, the boundaries, like these documents are the physical manifestation of your energetic boundary bubble. So if you can think of it and reframe legal that way when it comes to, wow, do you think I need to get these things in place? Well, can you grow beyond the bubble? You can, but it might hurt. You might not be protected outside the bubble. So it really allows you to like flip the frame and say, I can empower myself with these legal tools, rather than exist out there with no energetic protection, no bubble of white light around me, and wait till something bad happens. And then call a lawyer.
Yeah, so you want to make sure you are being proactive and having all of
Totally.
those things in place. I
Yeah,
love the way you speak about it. It's so cool. And I have to say, at the event as well, Vanessa gave these keychains that said legally lit.
totally.
So it
Yeah, a little
just when you were
flashlight.
talking about that
Yeah.
light, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you speak of key pillars when it comes to protecting yourself from a legal perspective to, putting those documents in place. There are some key pillars. Can you speak to those and how they apply?
Yeah, I mean, I would say key pillars for like generally across the board for people who are not necessarily entrepreneurs. Having the estate plan in place is a key pillar. You want to have that, like, if you own property, if you have kids, get that done. I would say if you're a business owner, you want to have a first, boundary between you and the people that you're interacting with in your business in the form of some kinds of physical documents, whether they are contracts with your clients, liability waivers with your customers, different, protections on your real estate, like all of these different things. So put barriers and structures around you in place to protect your assets, to protect your work. So there's so many others, but just off the top of my head, thinking like the estate plan, the contracts, corporate structures are another excellent way to protect yourself from liability and get access to some really great tax advantages. So just generally, those types of protections are important. And I would also say, as far as like for any risks that relate to real estate, I will just say, as far as the estate world goes, if people are holding real estate in joint tenancy with another person, that sometimes can result in unintended consequences. So if people are thinking, oh, let me like do quick transfers to avoid probate or to do different things to kind of circumvent a plan, there could be unintended consequences. So you don't want to get into the weeds of trying to avoid something you don't understand when you're navigating those pillars, whether it's, in your estate plan, DIYing, your incorporation, all of these things, making sure that you're getting something that's right for you as far as, in these categories for your life and your business.
So you've really simplified it in that it's when you look at like the ways in which you interact with people. So the people in your life, I mean, not that your families are a transaction, but it does mean that there is a shared property, as you were saying. So that's kind of a sign, all right, something needs to be
Mhm.
in place there. But then from a business perspective, when you're interacting with people, right?
Of
And
course,
is there
partners,
a
people,
boundary?
yeah.
Yeah, so the partner piece, and then there's like the customer or the client piece that is important.
Yeah, people often miss the partner piece because you're friends with your partner. Things are good when you're getting started in a business or you're going in on something together. And, there might not be room in the budget for a shareholders agreement or one of these documents in place. But even and especially then, these documents, like whatever they are there to protect future you and, future fallout. So it really is that like I thank your past self, future self, because
Mhm.
she teed you up for success, when something went a little bit sideways or whatever that may be. And it's not always that the relationship with a partner's gone sour. Things happen in life. People don't realize that you have a partner. If that partner goes through a divorce, there's unintended consequences to your business if your business partner gets divorced. So life happens. People lose capacity, they become disabled, they become non-resident Canadians. People, different things happen in businesses and in life. And so when you don't plan for the future comes up pretty fast, and then you can find yourself backed into a corner.
So would you say those are the conversations, the agreements that you should have in place from the beginning, even though maybe you're starting a business with
Always.
someone? And I think that that's the piece is you think, well, I mean, we don't even have anything yet.
Totally.
We're starting, but you're saying now's the time to have that conversation. And it would also be indicative of the type of partnership that it's going to be, because if you can't have the conversation with someone
Totally.
prior to starting the business, when there will likely be some difficult things, and I mean, same thing with a life partner, really, when you
Yeah,
think about it, those are the
totally.
conversations you should have
Yeah,
in the
I see
beginning.
that as it relates to like a lot of these documents because, whatever type of legal document we're preparing, whether it is a contract, a shareholders agreement, a trust, a will, a power of attorney, these are expressions of people's intention. And they are expressions of intention on paper now. So that in the future, when there's confusion about what's going on and how everybody feels, we can go back and look and see what we wrote down back then.
Mhm.
That at a basic level is what all of these different documents do. And that is the protection of your future self. So
Yeah.
you're not stuck to the multiple interpretations because, as we know, people understand truth through their set of eyes, and there is no universal understanding. But if we agreed that this was the universal understanding, then we can go back and look at our signatures and say, yeah, we agreed to that.
Exactly. And I can see where also there is a lot of power in working with someone like yourself where you get to renegotiate those things because we change. And yeah, like maybe someone, your partner becomes a parent, and then all of a sudden, from their perspective, they're wanting to give less time to the business and more time with in their family
Mhm.
life, and the other person, it's the opposite, like they're full in on the business, and then it starts to not feel right. Whatever the sharing of
Totally.
the profit share was agreed upon no longer feels right. A new conversation needs to happen, and that's when you have a relationship with a lawyer such as yourself. You get like you make sure that these conversations are happening all the time, not just when, something
Yeah.
bad's happening.
And this is where the concept of legacy law alignment comes in, Renee, because
Mhm.
legacy is something that we live
Yeah,
now. They are tools for now. They are not necessarily tools for, the future, like in that sense. They help you to be in the now and to articulate those boundaries. And something I think about, like, as an example, like a client agreement, like when you're working with a client and you're talking to someone and you're like, I'm going to help you transform. I do magic work. Like, I'm a great coach. I know all these things. Like, we're going to do this. And you can focus on your magic and your zone of genius and the client and helping them instead of, okay, and then we're gonna meet on Monday at 3 to 5 o'clock. I'm gonna give you 5 sessions. It's gonna be like this is like, you don't have to go through all the nitty gritty of the liability, the all of the components that your document can do for you. You can
mhm,
release. You can release that the weight of having to articulate that to your client because your contract does it for you. So don't even worry. Don't even, you can say it so that you're transparent and honest and deliver all the things you need to say. But you don't have to make sure in that moment because all you're doing is, DMing someone and using voice notes to, sign a contract. Well, give yourself a little bit more meat and potatoes and hand them that plate and say, you know what, it's going to be a pleasure working with you. Take a second to read this contract, sign it, and then once you're signed and you know how things operate, I'm happy to go forward. So you
yeah.
take the weight of that explanation off of your emotional plate and you kind of empower the contract to do that work.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah, and you said, like, taking off the weight because that's what it feels like, the way you are expressing it, it feels lighter. Again, when we went through the process and we just recently did well, not that recent, but a couple of years ago, recently updated our, wills and powers of attorney and everything, and, yeah, it felt a little bit heavy when we knew we had to do it, and
Yeah.
then it's done, and what it feels like is just a weight off your shoulders. It's
Yeah.
light, we're clear, decisions have been made, this is what's gonna happen. We'll revisit it when, big things change or
Yeah.
if there's a need for it, but it is a lightness that it invites in. You mentioned your legacy law alignment, so I know that this is like a method that you have created. Am I right? Or can you
Yeah,
share a
it's a
little bit
new
what it is? What do you mean by that?
totally. It's a new slogan that I'm using to explain the vision behind Soul Attorney. So Soul Attorney, was always this vision of bringing heart, bringing soul, the holistic experience of the person navigating the law. So that was Soul Attorney, and Legacy Law Alignment was born out of my desire to live life on my own terms. And I have a tattoo that says, "Listen to the whispers of your soul moment by moment." And that desire for me to build a legacy, and then to help others, my peers, do the same using the tools of the law to help them live an aligned life. So
Mm.
it's like bringing all of the threads together so that we are holistic individuals navigating this universe that we live on, using legal tools to empower ourselves to create the life and the legacy of our dreams and live out our purpose and be in alignment with that soul calling that we all have.
So beautiful. Okay, so I would love to maybe transition a little bit
Yeah.
because the fact that you're calling yourself soul attorney, which just lights me up, makes me so happy, and I think it's the absolute best Instagram handle out there. Um, I would imagine that in your profession, there's also would be a bit of resistance around using that, right? Like, "Oh,
Sure.
am I going to maybe turn off some people that are uncomfortable with the
Yeah.
word soul?" And so what's been that journey of you owning your your identity, I guess, or your sense of this is important to me, the values of working, like bringing heart
Mhm.
to the law, bringing soul to the law. This is important to me. And I'm willing to go all in and trust that it's gonna work out.
Yeah, it's been honestly like it's not easy, right? It's not been easy. And I met with an accountant this morning for a coffee and we were chatting about it. She's actually a death doula. And so we were talking about the two sides of the coin, being a professional and being someone who's really spiritually inclined and soulfully inclined. And it was just interesting to reflect on that, and that this question has come up again this afternoon because it has been a journey of self acceptance, of
Mm.
integration, of self leadership, because the traditional way, being a lawyer, very, type A, masculine. I'm a winner. I'm an Aries. I'm all of it. Like, I really have that fire energy and that logical side of me. But at heart, I am also if you're into the astrology, I'm a Libra moon. So I am, feeling the feels, and I like to bring everybody into reconciliation. So the creative side of me, the musician side of me, the spiritual side of me was always afraid to be too woo woo or too, a little out there with my content or my commentary. And I've always been a bit of a black sheep, Renee. I've always kind of just done my own thing. And, if it's good, then it's good. If it's not, then I'll trip on my face and fall over and start again. So being able to pivot as I've kind of the pendulum has swung from being, so much of a lawyer to like letting my spiritual side in, and back and forth over time. But I really, in the last couple months of, my practice expanding into estate litigation work, instead of just the planning side of things, I'm now kind of helping people navigate the fighting and the, being backed into a corner and navigating those challenges. It made me reflect on my past and the integration and how important it is to allow the soul into my practice, to realize that the people who get it will get it, and the people who don't get it are not meant for me. And that's okay, because I'm not meant for everyone. Not everyone believes, not everyone feels the presence of spirit. And if you're someone who kind of gets it and, talks the talk and understands the lingo, you will resonate. And, I don't need everyone to be my client. I just need to help the people who I've been put here to help.
Mm. Wow. Yes, that's the truth of it, right? When you actually are speaking from your soul, then you're attracting the soul aligned people, the people that get
Hmm.
you, that are, oh my goodness, what some people would maybe be, ooh, this is too much. These people see as your gift and
Yeah.
your magic and your pure, yes, I want to work with her because I know she gets me and she gets that this is not about being all legal. It's about me being in energetic alignment and
100%.
trusting that everything is in place so that I can do the work that lights me up. And how incredible that you are there. And this is this work that lights you up.
Hmm. For sure. And I think about it from that side, and as well from the litigation side, because, half the time people think they're fighting over assets, they think they're fighting over money. But when you really get down to the heart of the emotion that is motivating the conflict, that's the soul speaking. That's justice. That's, that inherent moral compass of ours saying something that I have to stand up for this moment. Because when you decide to litigate, it's not a light decision. It is an investment, it is a risk, there are consequences, good or bad. And so when you decide to engage a lawyer and get the support once you feel you've been, backed into a situation where you need a litigator, that there's something in your soul that says, we got to go after this. It's not about the money, it's about the justice. And
Mhm.
so being aware of those motivational factors, those soul anchors to the emotion that gets played out in the game of life, gives me clarity, especially if I'm helping clients to negotiate a settlement or come to what is going to make everyone happy here. Because the court system doesn't inherently give you a sense of justice. I'll tell you that right now. Like, you can go through a lawsuit, you can get to the end of it, and you can feel like everyone lost. Like, there is no winner. And so getting that sense of justice isn't always a black and white answer. So having a lawyer that is, able to see outside of the box, can be very, very helpful.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. See beyond. Like as you said, it's never really about the money, right? It's what the
This
money
is,
represents,
but
right?
yeah, both sides of the coin for
Yeah.
sure.
Kinda like what does this money mean to me? What's the story around the money for me? And then I have my own story
Yeah,
around it, and then the other person has their own story about it, and then there's
yeah,
the relationship between the 2, so it's
totally.
so much more complex than just fighting over one thing, but I love how you're able to bring the bigger perspective on it, and I'm just celebrating you for owning all of you. Like when I say your soul's purpose I always kind of go back to the Vedic philosophy root of it, which is to be your fullest expression. And to me, being your fullest expression is being all of you. And oftentimes in this world, we feel like, okay, I get to show up as the lawyer here, and then, ooh, it's Friday night and I get to see my friends, that now I get to bring the spiritual side to me. And yet, when you actually give yourself permission to open it all up and to
Mhm.
shine in all of who you are, then everything just comes into place in such a beautiful way. But it does take courage. And that's why I say, like, the celebrating piece, I do think
Yeah,
that it takes courage because you're doing things differently, not what is expected of the typical lawyer, right? You're
totally.
doing it your way, and that
Yeah.
requires courage.
I definitely feel that. Like, like if I literally show you, I have a sticky note that says courage over comfort, like right in front
Mm.
of me every day, because that is the journey of, when you're a trailblazer, you're out front blazing the trail. And, there's a reason in life I never felt like I fit in. I was always first with my hand up, first to go, first to go. And when you're first to go, and when you're a leader and you're a light worker and you're someone who's here to like make an impact and make a difference, there's not going to be an example of someone who's done it first. And it looks weird and people question you and people think you're crazy until it starts to work. And then they're like, what's she doing? I want to go on that ride. So I'm trying to just believe in myself and believe in, my gifts and what I'm here to do and serve the world. And, the aligned people who need what I have will come into my life and we'll all be better for it.
Yes, it's an abundant world.
That's
Bring
right.
on the abundance.
That's right.
Vanessa, quick question before we wrap this up, because so you just showed us you have this sticky note with an affirmation, courage over comfort, which might end up being the title of the podcast. I'm not sure, but I love it. What are other ways that you stay spiritually wired or connected? Like,
Yeah.
what are the practices, the tools that you love to keep yourself spiritually
Oh,
connected?
great question. I love to listen to guided meditations and vibration sounds. So I'll always, like when I wake up, I have like a YouTube playlist that I'll go back to. A lot of Abraham Hicks on it, a lot of like good vibes, rampages in the morning. So I call it like getting my head on straight. If I don't get my head on straight in the morning and, whether I'm like just walking with the vibration sounds or whatever, just being in my own mind and being in silence and allowing myself to practice being present, that is really grounding for me. And I love different vibration sounds to do that. And on top of that practice, I'll pull tarot for myself and for friends, and I'll, tap in and all the other things we mentioned before we started hitting record. I'm looking into, like, I'm taking another course in channeling to, tap into the other side. So there's a lot of beautiful things that I do to stay spiritually wired. And yeah, it's just a magical world we live in,
I know,
so
isn't
I
it?
love it.
It's like when we stay open to the magic, right? Like that's the key thing, is we just need to stay open to the magic and the
Yeah,
awe. And I feel that when I'm in your presence. I just
thank
absolutely
you.
love your energy. And for our listeners who are wanting to connect with you, we've said
Mhm.
the Instagram handle a few times at
Yeah.
Soul Attorney, so we know they can find you there. But what is the best place to connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can check me out at my website. It's www.thesoulattorney.com. And yeah, on Instagram, soul.attorney, and that's obviously SOUL, not SOLE. So yeah, really, like, online is the best place. I offer everyone a free 15-minute phone call. So if you want to just chat with me to see, if you need a lawyer for what you're going through, and what the best solution is for people, I love to just have a quick chat and, if it's not me, point you in the right direction.
Amazing. Well, we are going to link to all of that information in the show notes. Thank you so much for being with us today, Vanessa. It was
Thank you for
such
having me,
a
Renee.
beautiful, heart-opening conversation about the law. Who would have thought?
I know, right? It's my passion to change people's minds. We're not all bad, all us lawyers.
No, you sure are not. Well, I want to remind everyone, if you're listening, as always, that you are spiritually wired for love, for success, for abundance, for freedom, for joy, for lightness. And I will see you next week. Thank you for listening to Spiritually Wired. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow and leave a review. It really makes a big difference for the podcast. And if you're ready to dive deeper and join a soul-led community, come be a part of the Spiritually Wired membership. With weekly live lessons and a rich library of recorded classes, it's designed to support you every step of the way on your spiritual journey. We currently have a special offer where you can receive your first month for half the price. You can find a link in the show notes or come check it out at reneewalkerwellness.com. Until next time, remember to take some deep breaths. Remember that you are spiritually wired.